The packed house here at Lambeau Field has plenty to cheer about at the half as the Packers all over the Vikings, 31-7 as we welcome you back fieldside. Ronnie Lott, Howie Long, and the question that was asked by the Blonde Bomber is, can the Blonde Bomber have a hat? Well, Terry Bradshaw has a hat. Ronnie, of course, being a consummate teammate. Hey, we were dissecting a lot of problems that Green Bay was having prior to the start of the game. Terry, it's safe to say the Pack is back.
The Pack is back. Obviously, they've got it figured out inside the 20-yard line. What has happened primarily is the Vikings have gone to zone coverage. You go to zone coverage, you're going to get killed by a team that can throw the football like Green Bay. Vikings had control of this game early in the first quarter, very much like the Dolphins last week. But their inability to score, when Robert Smith went out of bounds on the 6-yard line, they missed a chip shot field goal. Instead of being up 14-7, it's 7-all. And ever since then, Ronnie and Howie, it has been the Brett Favre show. These receivers, after dropping passes early, have come back and big catches and great quarterbacking by Favre.
Yeah, Brett Favre's a remarkable guy. And talking to John Madden yesterday, we talked about Brett Favre's ability to elude the rush. Many pass rush breakdowns the first few games. Here we see Brett Favre shuck off the oncoming rush. He's a threat to throw and run at the same time. Great athletic ability. The ensuing play amounts to a touchdown. Brett Favre's back, and he's ready to take somebody's lunch money, Ronnie.
Oh, he's giving somebody's lunch money. He's taking a lot of lunch money, especially that free safety. If you look at the free safety right now, free safety's having a tough time. And if you look on this play right here, the receiver's able to go up the seam right here. The free safety, Orlando Thomas, is not able to get over, and you got to get over when you play against Brett Favre. You got to read him, and right there, you didn't take anything away. Now look at Robert Griffin, the free safety. We got another receiver running up the seam. He has to get over there. Brett Favre looks off, and I can tell you right now, I played against Brett Favre. Believe me, I've been in the same situation. He's beat me a lot of times.
Howie, he looks like he's still selling what now?
Candy.
Candy, okay. Very politely. When we come back, Pat Summerall and John Madden will join you for the second half after this.
Back at Lambeau Field, both teams headed back to the sideline. Green Bay leading Minnesota 31-7. Minnesota traditionally has been a team that gave the Packers a lot of problems. Mike Holmgren, as we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, not happy with the way the Packers had been beginning games. They haven't been able to get anything going. He should be happy.
Well, he's probably still not happy about the way they began the game. I mean, if you think of the first quarter, it was all Minnesota Vikings. In fact, until Robert Smith stepped out of bounds there, that would have been 14-7. But it was about the second quarter. I mean, and the Packers came out, and Brett Favre got hot, and he got the pass protection, and the Minnesota Vikings were trying to zone the end zone. He had guys wide open and just ate them up. And so it was about the Packers maybe being a little over anxious early and then coming out there in that second quarter and just destroying the Minnesota Vikings.
And we were talking about the one thing, the one person in the NFL that Brett Favre mentioned that he might fear, and that was John Randall. And do you think he has reason to fear him?
Well, you know, of course he has the score. He's up 31-7, but John Randall is one of those guys that he was going to get Brett Favre, and he was going to get him early, and he was going to get him off, and he did get him early. And I think maybe that was the reason for the Packers' slow start, because they were smacking Brett Favre around, but Brett Favre did get control of it in that second quarter.
And the Vikings kickoff is going to be handled by Schrader. Schrader is hit down to 20 in the fumble. The Vikings saying we have it. And a lot of them indicate we have it. Nobody in the striped shirt, and now somebody in the striped shirt. One of the officials indicates that Randall did fumble, that Schrader did fumble, and the Vikings do have it.
And that's what Denny Green and the Vikings had to talk about when they went in there is, okay, man, the second quarter, we got whipped. We got to come out there and make something happen right off the bat. And right off the bat means your special teams. You need guys flying down there. When you're down 31-7, you have to do things like that. You have to put your helmet on the ball. You have to try and strip. You have to do those kinds of things in all areas, not just your offense, your defense and your special teams. So they get their first big play from their special teams.
Recovered by Leonard Wheeler. First and 10 Minnesota, just inside the Green Bay 19. Robert Smith to the 15 and just across.
The other thing the Vikings probably, talked about is you can't look at the score when you first come out in your first series in the second half. You just have to get things started again. So they probably want to start the game about the same plan that they started the first quarter. I mean, so they want to play this third quarter like they played the first quarter.
2nd and 6. Green Bay 31-7 over Minnesota. Smith hit and knocked backwards. Hit by Santana Dotson. This is a guy who's not big. He's tall and sort of gangly looking, but a great athlete.
Yeah, and he goes perfectly with Gilbert Brown in there, because when Gilbert Brown is in there, he's the run stopper. He's the guy that is gonna stuff the run. And then Santana Dotson is the athlete. I mean, he's the guy that makes those moves. He goes in the hole sideways, does all those kinds of things, and gets a lot of penetration.
3rd and 5. 3 wide receivers for Minnesota. Brad Johnson looked right. Gets one of the receivers. And should have enough for a first down. That's Cris Carter.
Tell you one thing, this Green Bay defense, after the first part of the game, really has controlled the receivers of the Minnesota Vikings, Jake Reed and Cris Carter. It looks like early they were having their way with them, and then they calmed down, and then they started making some plays on defense. And then, of course, once the Green Bay offense got the ball, then they put the 31 points on the board.
There is Green Bay defensive coach Fritz Shermer. That's Evans to about the 5.
You hear all that grunting going down. That's where you get your strength. I mean, that guys, you say, why do they do? I mean, an offensive lineman, when he ties into a defensive lineman, and when a defensive lineman ties into an offensive lineman, there's always a grunt. And because that's where you're trying to get underneath the other guy's pads, and that's where you get your strength. I mean, you get your extra power with the grunt. Now watch all the grunt. Every time you hit, you're going to hear the grunts.
Ball at the 4-yard line. 2nd down, Smith. Trying to get around the corner. Slips out of a couple of tacklers and gets to about the 2.5-yard line.
See, you hear Wayne Simmons on the end there just go, at the end. That gets that extra punch. Watch him. Here's Wayne Simmons here, 59. He'll be coming down the line of scrimmage. He comes off the tight end, come right down here. Now watch him when he makes that hit. You see that grunt is the thing that gives him right there, gives him that extra explosion that knocks the guy out of bounds. If you can't grunt, you can't explode.
It'll make it 3rd down. They need explosion right now. 3rd and goal at the 3-4 wide receivers. No running back. Touchdown to Cris Carter. Got the great hands.
And the Vikings, again, you go back to the first quarter, they had things going, they had things started. And here you're going to see Cris Carter, and he's just going to come in. They have 3 wide receivers on this side. Cris Carter just comes right in here in a slant, and he's covered. Pryor was there with him, but Pryor had his back to the quarterback, and Brad Johnson just threw it right over Pryor's head.
Cris Carter's 80th touchdown, career touchdown. He's the 10th player in NFL history with 80 or more. From Johnson to Carter. 31-14. 31-14. This is Chris Darkins this time to return the kickoff. Stopped at about the 17 or 18.
What the Minnesota Vikings did on that kickoff is they faked an onside kick, and then they just kicked a normal kick. When you have a kicker like Greg Davis who doesn't get a lot of leg in the ball, you try and do those things to confuse a return team. They've done that a couple times to Green Bay, and that is one thing that has worked for them.
11:44 left in the 3rd quarter. 31-14, Green Bay leading the Vikings. Brett Favre gives to Dorsey Levens. Levens looking for running room and doesn't find much. Dixon Edwards made the stop.
You know, Cris Carter is so good in that area. You know, we talk about the red zone anytime you get inside the 20 and you're going in. You know, I don't know that there's anyone any better than Cris Carter because he's a big target.
Yep.
And he just has a feel. I mean, he's big and strong. He's not real fast, but he's big and strong, and he has a feel for bumping guys around and getting between a defender and the quarterback, so the quarterback has a target in the end zone.
And he has great leaping ability. On second down, Favre back to throw it. Pass is deflected and picked off by the Vikings, Jason Fisk. And Minnesota back in business on offense again.
Jason Fisk is the nose tackle, and you'll see he's going to be dropping out. Here's Jason Fisk back here. Now, he doesn't knock the ball down, but this is what you call a zone blitz. You see, he starts to go back. Did you see him go back? And then the ball is tipped right there by Derek Alexander. And again, Fisk, who is a defensive lineman on a zone blitz, he goes back and he becomes a linebacker. Now watch him here. Now watch him as he drops back. Watch 72. You see him come out. Now he's a linebacker. And he just gets that interception. Big old nose tackle. Ending up in his zone blitz as a linebacker and picking one off.
1st and 10. Johnson to throw it. Swings it outside to Smith. Robert Smith inside the 10. Knocked out of bounds at about the 8. Make it the 7-yard line. It'll be 1st and goal from there for Minnesota.
Yeah, we always talk about a zone blitz and does it work or not, and you always assume that the blitzing part has worked, but that time the zone part worked, where the 300-pound nose tackle is back playing in a zone. Of course, it was a tip ball, but he picked it off.
1st and goal at the 7. Brad Johnson has Robert Smith deep. Fakes the handoff to him. Fires incomplete. There's a flag in the end zone.
Yeah, and they're calling it a touchdown.
Jake Reed was interfered with, made the catch.
It's number 59. Penalty decline.
Penalties decline, and Jake Reed came down with it.
Well, we talk about Jake Reed, you know, being such a big, strong guy, and we're talking about Carter being a big target in the end zone. So is Jake Reed. But when you're big and strong, these are the kind of plays that you can make. That was a touchdown. There was also a penalty, and of course you turn down the penalty when you get a touchdown.
And they're going to go for 2. Carter goes right. Reed comes left with Walsh. Brad Johnson has Smith deep. Gives to, I beg your pardon, not Smith, it's Evans. And Evans gets the 2 points.
That's not bad for the Vikings. They've scored a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point play in 1 minute 33 seconds.
And they've narrowed the thing to 9 points, 31-22.
You know, we always talk about a cutback, and watch here. When Charles Evans starts, he's going to start here. Then he sees a hole back to this side and cuts right back in it. This is a 2-point play. This is a cutback. See, he's going to the right. Look at that big hole on the backside. Once he sees it, he goes to the cutback and takes it.
Again, the Vikings fake that onside kick. The Packers have to honor that and come up. This is Chris Dawkins again to return the kickoff, and he's stopped short of the 20. Hard to set up a kickoff return when they fake the onside kick every time.
Yeah, you can't do it, and that's what happens because the Packers have to come up in an onside prevent. And then when it's not an onside kick, then they try and get back into their regular return.
Doug Evans over on the sideline. Stretching. 1st and 10 Green Bay from their own 19-yard line. 31-22. All of a sudden, what looked like a blowout gets closer.
Well, the Vikings played the first quarter well also.
Yeah, they did. Levens to the line of scrimmage. Maybe a yard.
Let's just watch that kickoff again, Pat. And you see when they go to the shift, then that puts these guys in a shift. You see how the Packers all come up? They have to get in this position for an onside kick because there's a possibility of an onside kick. Now they fake the onside kick. Then when they kick the regular kick, then these guys aren't in a position to get into a blocking formation. It's a heck of a move.
It is. I don't know that I've ever seen that done before.
Not a bad idea, because if you don't honor the onside, they can just kick an onside kick.
2nd and 8. Here's Favre. Man open is Freeman. That same pattern where he just runs straight down the field between the safety and the corner.
Yeah, in a zone defense, you either have to get a real pass rush and not let the quarterback get the ball, or you have to bump these guys. But if you don't get a bump in a zone and you let guys run free in a zone with a quarterback who can throw the ball on a rope like Brett Favre, you are going to get killed. And I don't know that the Vikings shouldn't go to some man-to-man or change up some zones, or at least to go to some zones where they get these guys bumped.
11 on 1st down. Stop by Randall right now for a McDonald's game break. Let's return to Joe Buck at the Fox Television Center in Hollywood.
Thank you, Pat. Down in New Orleans, Heath Schuler is thrown for a touchdown. This is his first ever rushing touchdown in the NFL. 5 yards, 28-7 lead. Mike Ditka saying, I told you I could make him a quarterback. Now get out of my face, Pat and John.
Boy, after watching that New Orleans team last week against the 49ers and seeing now what they're doing to Detroit, that's a shocker.
Well, last week they were inept.
5 to Freeman. On the money. Covered by Washington.
Antonio Freeman gets up with a divot in his head. Now you're talking football. When you have to pull stuff out of your helmet after a catch, that is football. That was pretty good coverage, though, by Dwayne Washington. I mean, that wasn't a zone. Here's Dwayne Washington, and this is Brett Favre throwing the ball. I mean, Dwayne Washington is there. He makes the cut with him. He's right there. He has the hand up there, and Brett Favre just makes a perfect throw to Antonio Freeman.
He took the divot with his helmet. Freeman has 6 catches. Levens to break. Henderson rumbles inside the 15 to the 14 from Favre.
See, Brett Favre is so good that he can take the momentum away from you and just take it back himself, and that's exactly what he's doing here. I mean, that throw to Antonio Freeman was really something. And then he gets Henderson. He's a fullback in the I formation. He just runs right through, becomes the first back, and he just hits him right over the middle.
Henderson goes about 250.
He said he'd rather block than run, that you get hit more, and it's a good point. You get hit more as a runner than you do as a blocker.
3 wide receivers set up this time for the Pack. Levens is the back. And the handoff is to Dorsey Levens, who spins inside the 10. An explosive offensive unit.
You know, and sometimes you wonder, you look at this offense and you say, is this a great offense, or is this just an offense with a great quarterback? And I don't know that it's not a pretty good offense with a good coach in Mike Holmgren and a great quarterback. And I think it's more about the great quarterback than it is about the offense.
I think the wide receivers are also very good.
Especially when the ball's put in your hands like that.
Here's Favre. Gets it outside to Levens. Levens to the 5. About a yard short of a first down.
You know, Robert Brooks was out there in front of me, and the minute that action started around him, he was blocking, and he took his right leg and pulled it right out of the ground. You know, I mean, he just pulled his right leg up, took the foot out of the ground, because there was no way that he was going to get that knee while blocking. And a lot of them do get it there.
That's how he got it originally.
Watch him here. Now he's going to be blocking, and he's going to be around the pile. Now watch once he sees he's not. You see that right leg go up in the air?
Yep.
He is not going to get caught with his foot in the ground.
3rd and 1. Levens. To the 1. Orlando Thomas made the stop.
And Robert Griffith came over the top too, but I think that's probably what William Henderson was talking about, how how much more you get hit when you carry the ball than you do as a blocker, because Levens really got it at the end of that run. Someone asked him, he said, what do you do about it when you get tired? He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know what to do when you get tired.
I have worked on the game. I've worked on that phase.
Yeah. If you can figure that one out, you tell me.
2 tight ends. Touchdown Chmura this time. 5 touchdown passes for Brett Favre.
That's what a competitor does. That's what a fighter does. You know, I mean, he gets a punch and he counters the punch, and that's exactly what Brett Favre did. He got a couple of punches by the Minnesota Vikings. They scored 2 touchdowns. They make a 2-point play. Brett Favre just takes his team down, right down the field. Boom, boom, boom. Finds his big tight end, Mark Chmura, in the end zone to end it.
5 touchdown passes, ties his career high. The extra point is good. And it's 38-22. Green Bay over Minnesota. 38-22 Green Bay. Favre is 15 out of 26 for 222 yards, 5 touchdowns. Pretty good day's work. Robert Tate will start from the 4, and this time he has some room. Out of bounds at about the 39. Darren Sharper knocked him out of bounds. 38-22 with 4.5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. That's cheese.
Yeah, you wonder when you see the cheese, you wonder where it's made. Well, it's made here in Wisconsin. You wonder how it's made. You're seeing it now. That's mozzarella right there, I think. This factory here, Pat, makes 60,000 pounds of this a day. And that's making some cheese.
A lot of it's on your bus.
I know it. And then I had, on my bus, I had a whole load of cheese in the cheese head. So then you eat the cheese, and after you eat the cheese, then you put the rest of it on your head.
That's Robert Smith. Picked up about 8 or 9. Stopped by Eugene Robinson.
You know, there's a guy who's been a big addition for this Packer defense, Eugene Robinson, and he's kind of the guy that, you know, Fritz Shermer says he manages our defense. He's the talker. He's the guy back there that, you know, gets everyone in place, gets the formation, gets all those things. And some of the things that Ron Wolf has done with this team and bringing in players, sometimes you don't get to talk about the Eugene Robinsons, but that's a big deal.
Smith into Packer territory about the 43-yard line. Tyrone Williams made the stop. Robert Smith, who averages, as I said earlier, about 8 yards a carry so far this year. If he can stay healthy, he's over 100.
And if the Vikings can get a better defense where they can stop someone and not get behind, because the way to take someone out of a running game is just to get so far ahead that the run doesn't mean anything.
Here's Smith again, chased to the sideline and cut down out of bounds. Got only about a yard that time. Tyrone Williams on the stop. Denny Green said we have to be able to control the clock. We have to be able to run the ball. They did in the 1st quarter.
Yeah, and they won the 1st quarter, and then the turning point was when Robert Smith broke away. It looked like he was going to score a touchdown. In fact, it looked like he did score a touchdown, but he stepped out of bounds on the 7-yard line, or was forced out of bounds by Leroy Butler, and they didn't get anything out of that. And then, boom, the Packers took over from that point on.
Johnson throws, pass complete. Jake Reed. Stopped by Tyrone Williams, but Jake Reed is just too big.
And if they play that defense, if they play Tyrone Williams man-to-man on Jake Reed like this. Here's Tyrone Williams. Here's Jake Reed. He will run this all day long. And if they don't give Williams any help, and again, it's just a guessing thing, he can hit that thing, and Brad Johnson will hit him on that 5th step every time, just like that.
I'm impressed with Brad Johnson. And you have to be impressed with Robert Smith. Brad Johnson, as John Madden said earlier, only started 7 games. at Florida State in his collegiate career. Robert Smith. He doesn't look like he would weigh 212, does he?
Well, because he has those long muscles, and those, you know, I mean, he doesn't have the thick, bulging muscle, but he has the long muscles, and those are the ones that, you know, let you make those kinds of moves.
Edmonds is the ball carrier this time, and the last surge carries him down close to first down yardage.
And Brad Johnson had that old fake again. He handed off and went back, and he faked that old jump pass. He has that Brett Favre thing. Brett Favre started that, and I think he's just kind of passing it around the league.
They move the sticks.
But it is fun. You know, if you watch a high school game, watch Brad Johnson here after he hands off. You see, he goes, he fakes the old jump pass. You go to a high school game now, and you'll see all the high school quarterbacks are doing that, and college quarterbacks.
When's the last time you saw anybody really throw a jump pass? Johnson taken down from behind by Santana Dotson.
Oh, he's giving the old gravedigger. That's Gilbert Brown's move. Santana Dotson takes Gilbert Brown's move. Here's Santana Dotson right now. We're talking about what an athlete he is and how he can get his body in different positions. You see, he just gives that rip with his right arm, splits the guard and tackle, goes right through him, and gets to Brad Johnson. It was like we've had enough of this stuff of Brad Johnson throwing the ball.
2nd and 13. That was big. Gilbert Brown over on the sideline. Here's Brad Johnson back to throw it again. Flag on the play. Pass is finally caught by Cris Carter. Johnson down.
Yeah, by Santana Dotson again.
Flag on the play and a penalty against Minnesota.
Johnson did have some time on that, and it was right at the end that his protection broke down and Dotson got there.
Offense number 73. 10-yard penalty.
Todd Stussy is number 73.
Yeah, he's not the guy that Todd Stussy's over here. He's the left tackle. Santana Dotson was the guy that got there, so it wasn't Stussy's guy. But again, you see Stussy there. I guess he tackled his guy right in front of the quarterback, though.
And right in front of the official.
Yeah, but that looked like pretty good pass protection to me. I mean, part of it was, I mean, he was on top of him. The guy was going down, and he just drove him down into the ground. Gilbert Brown's back in the game now. Darius Holland has really played most of the game in his position.
Holland still playing. That's Robert Smith, who gets it down to about the 20 before Roderick Mullen brings him down. He slipped a couple of tacklers and got some extra yardage out of it.
Yeah, Wayne Simmons had him all zeroed in, and he still doesn't know. Wayne Simmons walking around with his head down there figuring how the heck did he miss this tackle, because he had him zeroed in, he had him squared up, and he looked like he was wrapping his arms, and he went right through it. He still got his head down.
And that's the end of the third quarter with the score Green Bay 38, Minnesota 22, and Fox NFL Sunday will continue after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Pat Summerall with John Madden. 38-22. The Packers leading the Vikings, but the Vikings down at the Packer 23rd and 11. 1 quarter left. Brad Johnson, the Packers blitz. Johnson fires. Carter made the reception. He well short of a first down. Eugene Robinson made the tackle.
That was a good tackle. We talked about how valuable Eugene Robinson is. You know, that's a big tackle there, because that could be a 4-point play. And, you know, again, assuming that they make the field goal here, because that forced the Minnesota Vikings, instead of getting a first down and being able to, you know, go for a touchdown, it's forcing them to try a field goal here. And with 14 minutes left to go in the third quarter, you do have to kick a field goal in this situation.
From 31 yards away, Greg Davis will attempt. He missed one shorter, but this one he hits. And it's 38-25. The Packers lead Minnesota. Minnesota has had the ball twice in the second half. They've scored both times, a touchdown and a field goal. Again, they're up in that position to try the onside kick, and now they back out of it. Davis kicks off. Darkin tripped up just as he crossed the 20. And the Viking defense heads on the field. Green Bay takes over. Minnesota on defense. The Packers 38-25 leaders. Here's Favre to throw it. Gets rid of it. That one's on the bounce. Incomplete. Freeman, the intended receiver.
Yeah, you look at Brett Favre and his first 2 years with Green Bay. He had 37 touchdowns, 37 interceptions. And then in his last 3 years, of course, 2 of those were MVP in the league. 119 touchdowns, 44 interceptions. And I remember when Mike Holmgren said that he went to camp like 4 years ago and said the thing we have to do is we have to get more touchdowns and we have to limit those interceptions.
Remember, they didn't draft him. They got him from Atlanta. Brooks to the 46, tripped up by Griffith.
Yeah, that had to be one of the Packers' biggest moves and one of Ron Wolf's best moves that he's ever made in his life when he picked up Brett Favre from the Atlanta Falcons. Watch Robert Brooks out here. Again, he's going to come under a stop. He stopped. He was running just a little hook.
Yep.
And then Brett Favre saw him, and they communicate so well. That wasn't a pattern. He was trying to find a hole in his zone. He didn't find anything. And then he saw Brett Favre looking at him. He just made a slant out of it.
5 catches for Brooks for 92 yards. He and Freeman both have had big days. Here's Favre, 11. Dorsey, 11. Got a couple.
Yeah, the frustrating thing for Minnesota has to be now is trying to get the ball back without having the Green Bay Packers score, because in the second half, the Vikings have had 3 possessions and they've had 3 scores. So I know what Denny Green is thinking now. We got to get the ball back, but we don't want to get it back as a result of the Packers having scored another touchdown.
The Packers go with 2 tight ends, Thomason and Chmura. The wide receivers come left.
Black 74. Yellow. Black 74.
The Viking blitz gets to Favre.
Boy, that's a jailbreak. Did you see that? I mean,
Yep.
they just collapsed that whole pocket. That's a pocket collapsing. But watch Brett Favre when he gets back here, and watch how this whole thing just collapses right in front of him. See, they have that eagle look, and they got the stunt, the blitz up the middle. There's the blitzer, and then there's 4 guys hitting Brett Favre at the same time. Now, that is what you call a collapsed pocket, all started by a blitz. Watch, there's 4 guys all arriving at number 4 at about the same time.
That makes it 3rd down and about 16, 17 maybe. Chmura was the man in motion. Here's Favre back to throw it. Going deep to Freeman. Caught by Freeman and then juggled and then incomplete. Dwayne Washington was with him.
And Freeman had Dwayne Washington beaten. He was beyond him. Watch him here. Here's Freeman here. Here's Dwayne Washington here. Washington is looking into the backfield, and he lets Freeman run right by him.
No pattern.
No, and then Brett Favre just throws it right in his hand,
Yep.
and then Washington did make a recovery, and as Freeman was trying to bring it in, he hit him and knocked it out of there.
That's just the fly. The old-fashioned take off and run as hard as you can, as long as you can. Hendricks' kick is a bomb. Fair catch. It's caught at the 10-yard line by Palmer, and the Vikings have 90 yards to go. (38-25) Minnesota ball at their own 10-yard line. The Packers leading after a big second quarter. Put them in charge of the game. Favre red hot all day long with a couple of wild times early.
Yeah, Brad Johnson's been pretty hot this second half. He's 7 out of 7. He hasn't thrown an incomplete yet.
The handoff is to Smith. And right now for a McDonald's game break. Let's return to Joe Buck at the Fox Television Center in Hollywood.
Pat and John in New Orleans. Mario Bates has thrown for 1, run for 2. This one good for 1. He has a career-high 152 yards today. Under 6 to play. And New Orleans looking for win number 1, leading 35-10. Pat and John.
At Lambeau Field, it's 2nd and 6, 38-25. Minnesota trailing Green Bay. That's Smith again. Nothing doing. Leroy Butler. Lost a yard.
For a guy that has a torn bicep, Butler is all over the place, isn't he? He said, the only thing he was worried about is, is if he's going to be able to handle or control the pain. And it doesn't look like it's bothering him well. He tore the bicep right in this part of the bicep, right in the middle of the bicep, of course, on his other arm. You see he has a brace on that. They're not going to do any surgery or anything to it now.
Big down, Minnesota. Johnson has Jake Reed, and he has the first down. Sharper knocked him out of bounds.
We haven't heard a lot of Reggie White, and you see him here on this play. He's been going against Corey Stringer. Here he's going against the tight end, and he just is going to be double teamed there, but not much of an effort there. Reggie looks like he's starting to get a little tired out there because this defense has been on the field for a long time.
Stringer and the tight end is a little discouraging. 2 tight ends this time. Carter goes in motion. Johnson gets it out to Cris Carter, who leans forward and picks up a couple of extra yards with that lean. He tried to get it past the first down marker, didn't make it.
Like I was saying, the Vikings have really been effective with their second half possessions. They just need more of them, because you can see the first time they had the ball, 6 plays, touchdown. Second time, 2 plays, touchdown. And then the last time they got a field goal. So they've had the ball 3 times. This is the 4th, and they got 3 scores.
38-25. That's Evans trying to get the first down. Looks like he has it.
And the other thing, in addition to that, Brad Johnson hasn't thrown an incomplete pass in this second half. So if the Vikings can get the ball, and again, this is what Denny Green has to be thinking about. If we can get the ball, we can move against this Packer defense. We just have to have the ball and then not have, Brett Favre go crazy the way he's been going crazy.
Keep him off the field. 1st and 10. That's Smith. And Robert Smith runs for another first down into Packer territory. Mullen knocked him out of bounds. Today's game's being produced by Bob Stinner, directed by Sandy Grossman. The associate director is Mike Roy. Broadcast associates Fran Morrison and Charles McDonald. The technical producer is Bob Mueller. Studio was produced by Scott Ackerson, directed by Bob Levy. The senior producer is Bill Brown. And the executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill.
That's a lot of guys.
Yep. Here's Johnson. That's Jake Reed. That's a first down.
We talk about Favre being out, and Johnson is now 10 for 10 in this half. Look again, anytime you get these big receivers and they can get one-on-one with no underneath help, they are going to make plays. I mean, they're just going to cut in front of guys. They're just going to, cut in, take hooks, take everything because of those big bodies. But that was their plan, is to work on Tyrone Williams and work on the, on that right side of their offense.
Johnson gives to Smith. Smith. He can get 5 yards. And it looks like he's getting nothing.
Well, it doesn't take a lot of steps for Robert Smith to get 5 yards. I mean, he just goes boom, boom, and then he takes those long strides, and he's 5 yards in like 2 or 3 steps. I mean, some guys with shorter legs and shorter strides, it takes them like 10 steps to get 5 yards. It takes him like 3 steps to get 5 yards.
He got 129 yards today. 2nd and 5. He'll get another attempt. Flag on the play as he rolled down inside the 30. A late flag, and Smith is slow getting up.
And it's going to be holding against the Minnesota Vikings. That was called by the referee. And the referee is like 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't usually call a lot of holding.
Offense number 62, 10-yard penalty. Repeat, second down.
Called against Jeff Christie, the center.
Yeah, that's usually not a call. And here's Jeff Christie right here, the center. That's usually not a call by the referee. And you can see, I don't know what the referee saw either. He was too far away. The referee's way back here. He doesn't even make the picture. I mean, he's way back here. And when that play happened, he's 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He was 15 yards away from that play.
Must have been his time to write a ticket. Brett Johnson pump fake. Pass is caught by Jake Reed. And he's in bounds.
And they made up for it. They got that penalty, and Brad Johnson came right back and threw it out there to Jake Reed and made up for it. You know, the Packers are going to a lot of three-man line and blitzing. Watch a pass protection over here. Good pass protection by Todd Stussy, and in fact, he's still pass protected him now. But his pass protection let Brad Johnson step up and throw the ball out there to the left.
11 in a row by Johnson. He looking deep for Reed. Touchdown. Jake Reed.
Jake Reed is just too big and too strong. And you can cover him. You can have a guy there. You can have the coverage. Tyrone Williams is right there with him. Brad Johnson wasn't going to throw there. He was going to throw over the middle, and he came back, and again, strong arm, but the big target. Here's Tyrone Williams right here. Here's Jake Reed. You see Jake Reed is so big, he gets by him. Once he gets by him, he wants the ball. And he just gets that left hand and gets a little push, makes a heck of a catch.
9 catches, 119 yards by Jake Reed, 2 touchdowns.
And Brad Johnson's been perfect this second half.
12 in a row. And it's 38-32. Green Bay leading 12 for 12 for Brad Johnson in this quarter, in this half. Back again, Pat Summerall with John Madden. 38-32 Green Bay, and they fake one more time the onside kick.
See, and that brings Green Bay's kick return up for an onside prevent. See them all up there?
And then Greg Davis deep to Darkins. Flag on the play as Darkins has some room and is finally brought down outside the 45-yard line. Good return, but there's a penalty marker down. Holding against Green Bay.
I was just going to say, I bet this one will be called back, because anytime you see a flag on a punt or kickoff return, it's usually against the return team.
Holding during the return, number 43, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Randy Kinder was the man called for holding. 38-32, 6.5 minutes left. There is the head man of the Vikings, Denny Green. And his team has quietly gotten themselves in a position to win this game.
Well, as you look at that score, 38-32, the Vikings could win with a touchdown. You think back to that 2-point play was big.
Antonio Freeman from Favre gets the reception.
Remember when the Vikings went for it for 2 points, and now they're only 6 points down. But the thing that Denny Green is thinking now, not so much about that 2-point play, but he's thinking about getting the ball back, because they know and they've proven that if they have the ball, they can move it, because they've scored every time they've had the ball in the second half. So they know if they can get the ball, they can score. So the big thing is, can they get the ball now away from Brett Favre?
11. Gets up past the 45 for a Packer first down and more.
You see the guy that he patted on his head is a guy right here, his fullback. Here's Levens right here. His fullback is William Henderson, number 30. When he got up, he patted him on the head, and for that reason right there. See, Henderson made the block that sprung him, and he followed Henderson right through the hole, and then when Henderson made contact, he broke right off that block.
Two tight ends set up for Green Bay. First down and 10. Flag on the play. The whistle blows.
Yeah, I think Aaron Taylor, the left guard, moved for the Packers. And again, when you're blocking a John Randall, that will make you do that sometimes.
False start offense, 73. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Aaron Taylor.
Dorsey Levens talks about, how tired he gets, but there are a lot of guys that play better when they're tired, and he could be one of them. Look, in the first half this season, he's rushed for 100 yards, and in the second half, he's rushed for 266 yards.
Second down and 15. 2 tight ends for Green Bay. Vikings fake the blitz. Now maybe they're coming. And Favre, I believe, read it. And now he gets away and gets sandwiched. As he got close to the line of scrimmage, the pocket collapsed.
You notice one thing about the Minnesota Vikings: when they get Favre, they don't just let one guy get him. And when they get him that first hit, boom, 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 boom. There's going to be 3 or 4 guys on him every time. And if someone will slow him up or just get him a little, I know that their plan has to be, look, if we get him, get everyone on him. Coach Fazio looking for a good defense.
Packers put in extra receivers. The Vikings put in extra defensive back. 2nd and 14. 4 wide receivers.
Well, the Vikings better get some bumps because they haven't gotten bumps against these 4 wide receivers.
Derek Mays made the reception. He got 6 yards. Dwayne Washington made the stop.
And he was the guy that was off. They were up on the slots and off on the corners. And so that was the guy that they were going to hit with the slant, was where they're off. Mike Holmgren, of course, calls the plays for the Green Bay Packers. He's already called the play for this down. And when he was looking at his chart, he's looking at a play for the next down if they get a first down. He's already called that 3rd down play.
3rd and 9. The clock is still running with 3:20 left. 38-32 the score. 3 wide receivers. The tight end Chmura is to the right. That's Freeman in motion. Favre gets away from the blitz, and now he's down. And the Packers will have to punt. Wayne Rudd made the initial contact.
The guy that made that play was Fernando Smith.
Right.
He kind of played nose tackle, and he got the penetration. He's the first guy. You're going to see Fernando Smith is right here. Now watch him. He runs right by Jeff Dollenbach, and he gets penetration here, and that's the thing that gets Favre out of this. See the penetration? He almost got Favre as he was going back. Then that made Favre scramble.
And Brady comes over for the last takedown, and Favre doesn't care for that.
Brady, of course, was a teammate. Brady played for the Green Bay Packers.
Hendrick's kick is a high kick. Palmer signals fair catch and makes it at the 14-yard line. Special guest stars Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace, and Mark Martin. See the world's best drivers when they take you behind the scenes of NASCAR. The world premiere of the movie Steel Chariots. Tuesday at 7 Central on Fox. The Vikings take over at their own 15, 38-32. The Packers lead.
The Packers haven't been able to stop the Vikings in this second half. This is the 5th time the Vikings have had the ball, but on their 4 previous possessions, they've scored again 3 touchdowns and a field goal. So they've scored this half every time they've had the ball.
Robert Smith. A couple. Santana Dotson on the bottom of the pile.
This is what I was just saying here, that if you look, they got on the 19, they scored. They got the ball on the Green Bay 24. They scored a touchdown. Their own 39, they scored a field goal. Now they're starting, and then on their own 10, they scored a touchdown. It's the 5th time they've had the ball.
Smith got 3 at 2nd and 7. Brad Johnson back to throw. In the middle, the pass is caught by the tight end, Andy Glover. Or Glover. Now we're going to get the 2-minute warning. And the Vikings get out of the hole and move the ball up close to midfield. Back at Lambeau Field, Pat Summerall with John Madden. 2 minutes left, 38-32. Brad Johnson has hit 13 Out of 13 in the second half, 3 touchdowns. The Vikings have gained 208 yards passing and 185 yards running. Almost 400 yards against this Green Bay defense. Johnson to Smith. Again, he fakes that jump pass. Smith runs out of bounds.
Yeah, Johnson's just going to have to go back and throw the ball because he hasn't thrown an incomplete ball this second half. And you talk about hot quarterbacks. We've seen a hot quarterback. We've seen one on both sides.
Yes,
Brett
sir.
Favre and his touchdown passes today. And in this second half, this Brad Johnson's just amazing.
Green Bay with 6 defensive backs, and Johnson back to throw it. Going deep, and he's got the man open. He dismissed Jake Reed behind him and high. That's the first one he's missed in this half.
If Fritz Shermer's thinking, what the heck do I have to do with these receivers? And I know what he has to do. You better double Jake Reed, and you better double Cris Carter. Andrew Glover did catch 1 pass, but the tight end only caught 1 pass all day today. And I think if they're going to do something, they have to stop. If the Packer defense is going to do, they have to stop Cris Carter and Jake Reed, because if the Vikings are going to make a big play, it's going to be with one of those guys.
3rd and 10, and watch those 2 outside receivers. 3rd and 10. A late blitz by the Packers. And the pass is overthrown. Intended for Cris Carter. The blitz almost got to Brad Johnson.
You see, the Packers have been using a lot of 3-man line and then bringing 1 or 2. That time they brought pressure from the backside. Brad Johnson got hit just as he threw that ball.
4th and 10.
I don't know that the Vikings have to do this. I think that on 4th and 10, with this much time, 1:45, and having all your timeouts, you could punt the ball here. I don't know that they have to do an all or none thing here. In fact, I don't think they have to.
Here's Johnson back to throw. Reggie White with the pressure. And the pass is intercepted. Reggie White got there at the last second. The ball was not intercepted. It hit the ground, but Reggie White caused whatever happened.
Reggie White has been causing whatever happened and making things happen for so many years. Here he is against Corey Stringer, and he just runs, gets on his outside shoulder, and he beats him with speed, and he hits Brad Johnson just as he throws that ball. It wasn't an interception.
Was not an interception. The ball hit the ground. The Packers take over.
But you know, now without second guessing, I think that the Vikings should have punted there, because they're going to get they would have gotten a timeout, a change of possession, plus they had 3 timeouts. You saw what happened in that play. Reggie White hit him and knocked the ball out of his hand as he threw it.
And now the Vikings have to call timeouts after every play until they're out. Levens stopped at midfield, and now the Vikings take the timeout. Derek Alexander made the stop. 1:32 left to play. 38-32 Green Bay. Reggie White, sometimes you think that maybe he lost a step, but whenever need be, he regains it.
And he regained it on that 4th down play when he hit Brad Johnson as he was throwing the ball.
Here is Robbins. And the Vikings again take a timeout.
And now all the Packers have to do is get a 1st down. See, once a team, you always want to save your timeouts, which the Vikings did, and you want to use them in 3s so you can get the ball back. But if the other team gets a 1st down after you start using your timeouts, then it's over. So if you're a Viking fan, then you want them to stop them on this down. The Packers, of course, need a 1st down.
So it's 3rd down and 7. The Vikings have 1 more timeout left.
And I still go back to that 4th down situation and not thinking that they had to go for it on 4th down. I think a punt would have been a good play, and then put him down, because you're really just taking 1 play for 4. You're taking 1. If you don't get it, you're giving up 4. And then put him down there, then use your timeouts and get the ball back. Robert Smith had a big day.
Didn't he?
The Vikings had a big day offensively. I mean, you know, they weren't that good in the second quarter, but they sure were in the 1st, 3rd, and 4th.
3rd down. The Packers lead the first. Favre fires down the middle, incomplete. A flag on the play. Brooks had a step. And Favre was hit just as he let go.
I'll tell you, Brett Favre has really been hit a lot this season. It's only the 4th game of the season, but Brett Favre is a tough guy. He's a tough quarterback, but he has really taken a lot of hits. He's really been batted around. But here comes a blitz, and they know that they have to go after Favre, but his arm is so strong that he can just take off. I mean, he can just throw that ball and get it where he has to. But watch what John Randall did to him. I mean,
yeah.
John Randall really unloaded on Brett Favre after he threw the ball.
And that's that penalty downfield. Here's the hit on Favre again.
That's John Randall right there. Boom. That is what you call a depleter. And all of Brett Favre's cleats came out of the ground and
off his shoes.
He went feet over head.
But he's back in the huddle.
He's a tough guy. I'd never question that. I mean, you think of linebackers as being tough, nose tackles, and I'd put this guy number 4 right up there with any tough guys.
The penalty stopped the clock. The pass interference penalty on Brooks. Favre just kneels down. They have 1 timeout left, and that'll burn it.
And Favre's getting out of there, too. He's not going to hang around there because he knows that this is a rivalry game. And he knows that there's no love lost between these 2 teams, and he's not going to let anyone take a shot at him as he kneels down there. Hey, the Vikings were in this game. They had it under control, and then they lost control of it. And then the second half, they came out, and they were hot. Brad Johnson did everything he had to win. Jake Reed, Cris Carter. Those were amazing today. Vikings going for 2 to put themselves in a position to win. And Reggie White made a play.
Big play. Wonder how many times we've said that in our career. Reggie White made a big play.
Seems like all our lives, but today was Brett Favre's day.
This is the 21st consecutive win for the Packers at Lambeau Field. Includes 3 in postseason. The last loss was in September of 1995 to the St. Louis Rams, 17-14. So they've been just about unbeatable here. Right now, let's send you down to Pam Oliver, who has Brett Favre.
All right, thanks a lot, Pat. We're going to wait till he gets the shoulder pads off. You took a bad hit there. How you feeling?
I feel good. Anytime you win a ball game, it's it's exciting. But it was a rough game. We knew it was going to be a tough, hard-fought ball game, and we found a way to win at the end.
John and Pat talked a lot about you just taking a lot of hits so far, really taking a beating kind of early in the season. Does that concern you?
No, I don't want to do it for a living, but it's football, and sometimes you get hit. We're playing good football teams. They're blitzing us a lot, but we'll be okay.
What does the record mean? Breaking the record, Bart Starr's record today. What does that mean for you?
It just means a lot because we won the ball game. It's an honor to break a guy like Bart Starr's record. But we have a long ways to go, and I'd much rather win another Super Bowl.
Feel better about the way the offense played, especially in the first half?
Yeah, we played a great defense, and we came back, and we struggled a little bit early in the first couple of games, but we found a way to get some points on the board. That's important against a team like this.
All right, you got a couple of games coming up against some teams in your division. Was this an important way to get that started?
Absolutely. Our division, I think, is the toughest in football right now. But to beat Minnesota the way we did today is, I think it's real gratifying.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Appreciate it. Let's go back upstairs to Pat.
All right, Pam, thank you. The final score here at Lambeau Field is Green Bay 38, Minnesota 32. Coming up on the NASDAQ postgame report, we'll get you up to date on all the scores from around the league. Also, our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all next on the NASDAQ postgame report.
And welcome back to the NASDAQ postgame report. Joe Buck and Bill Moss need to get you caught up on all the scores and highlights from around the National Football League. And I guess you have to start in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Mike Holmgren and the Pack looking for yet another win.
Robert Smith here leaps into the end zone from the 1-yard line. 16-play drive. Vikings take an early lead. Here comes Brett Favre firing back. 19-yard pass. Brooks celebrates the end zone. Then again, touchdown number 153. Breaks a record up in Green Bay. Antonio Freeman. Brett Favre throws for 5 touchdowns today. Mark Chmura, 2-yard pass. Let him throw, let him throw, let him throw. Brett Favre.
That's a variation on a song I've heard before. And it's a 6-point victory for the Pack. They get it at home over the Minnesota Vikings, so Denny Green's little spell that he's had over the Packers does not continue, and the Packers now have won 18 straight at home at Lambeau Field. How about the Chicago Bears? They changed quarterbacks, and they're still winless.
You know, he took a little bit of a pounding today, Bledsoe did. But he still got the job done. Here he hits Vincent Brisby over the middle on a blitz, man-to-man coverage, 7-yard touchdown. They jump on top, 7-0. And then he dumps it right here. Troy Brown splits the Bears D, goes 52 yards, pay dirt, and it's Bledsoe airing it out his way. Then here's the toss. Curtis Martin takes a pitch, goes around the outside. He's gone, 70-yard touchdown. Nice effort, Alonzo Spellman. But land or by sea, doesn't matter. Air 2.
Very patriotic, Bill Moss, and the worst start for the Chicago Bears since 1969 when they started 0-7. How about the Saints? Slow down, Heath Schuler. There's Mike Ditka trying to pump up the crew. He's been harsh on these guys, but he stood with Heath Schuler, and it paid off today.
Well, he showed him, and Mario Bates right here takes a handoff, finds some daylight, scampers 74 yards on the trap play, touchdown. Mario Bates, 2 touchdowns running today, 1 by air. Heath Schuler's getting into the mix on throwing touchdown. He throws his first touchdown pass of the season, 21-yard strike. Darryl Hobbs. Then Scott Mitchell bounces back, a 17-yard pass to Barry Sanders. Barry does his Barry moves and takes it on into the end zone. Became the 6th player to go over 12,000 yards today, Barry Sanders. Not enough, though, for the Lions. Saints nail him.
You see the day for Schuler. You see the day for Mario Bates, a career high. 162 yards today, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air. How about Kansas City and Carolina, you ask? Well, it's funny you should say that. Kansas City ends up with a 35-14 win. What happened to Carolina?
Elvis loves the South. He's back home. He's throwing touchdown passes. Carolina is struggling defensively. Carolina offensively has no receivers. It's been rough.
Explain this. Giant Stadium, but the Jets call it home. They've been talking about that for years. The Oakland Raiders got off to a great start today.
Well, same old Raiders. Let them get into the 4th quarter. Watch them self-destruct. Here he hits James Jett, who hauls in a 50-yard, 6-yard touchdown pass. And then George is in it again. He finds Tim Brown on this play in the end zone for a 29-yard touchdown pass. Raiders are going to find a way, though, in the 4th quarter. Cole Ford's 35-yard field goal attempt blocked by Corwin Brown, and Ray Mickens scoops it up. Goes 72 yards for the go-ahead score. Jets are back, and it's Big Tuna.
Big Tuna, you had to say it, a 1-point win for the Jets at Giant Stadium, and that snaps that 13-game losing streak at home. One other score to bring you before we say goodbye for a moment. Baltimore wins big at Tennessee, but in Memphis, and nobody showed up, Bill Moss.
Nobody showed up, and with good reason. Hey, you only scored 10 points in a game. Who would go to a game?
You know what? We're going to take all these nice folks out there back out to their game sites on the other side of this break.
It's not a bad deal. They're going to enjoy it, too.
They're going to enjoy it. We'll tell you you're going to enjoy it. The NASDAQ postgame report continues right after this.